Trust. I would love for you all to introduce yourselves in the chat. So just let us know where you're calling in from what organization, if you have a farm, if you've used biochar before, we'd love to hear from you. Gives us an idea of who's in the audience. So first, I want to acknowledge our partners, US Biochar Initiative and USDA's Agricultural Research Service, who are working with us on this webinar series and on the project that funds it. I also want to acknowledge our funding from USDA NRCS that's making this work possible. Thank you so much to NRCS. We have had many years of great collaboration together. Today, we get to dive in on the use of biochar enhanced fertilizers. Very exciting area, lots of questions there. We have an experienced professional with us today. But first, a few brief logistics notes. Next slide. We're recording this webinar today, and we will add that recording to our growing series and toolkit in our virtual library, the Farmland Information Center. I'll also note that we are in the process of making a number of updates to the toolkit that we have online, and that will go live in the next week or so. We have live transcript enabled today, and I want to call out our evaluation survey. We really value your feedback, so please do take a minute to fill it out again. We'll remind you at the end. We really appreciate hearing from everybody who joins these. How is it working? What's great? What else would you like to hear about? We would love to hear your ideas for topics and for questions that we should be addressing either here or in future webinars. Please do put your questions in the Q&A at any time while the presenter speaks today, and we will then address them after Santanu is done. So we'd love to make this a live conversation, really kind of get your ideas, get your questions, get your concerns, get your thoughts on the matter. And we have a lot of good expertise in the room, so great to tap into that. Next slide. I want to take a moment to introduce American Farmland Trust. We are a nationally connected nonprofit organization taking a holistic approach to agriculture. We work at the interface of the land, the farmers, the ranchers who manage that land, and the agricultural practices and systems of practices that they use on that land. And since our founding in 1980, AFT has helped land trusts and other farmland protection programs permanently protect about 8 million acres of agricultural land. We have put advanced soil health practices and other conservation practices on millions of acres, and we are continuously adding more. We've supported tens of thousands of farm families, and that list is growing. We literally do our work from kitchen tables to the halls of Congress, and that's part of how we're successful. We systematically combine 3 approaches for impact. We work on the ground with farmers and ranchers and those who advise them. We use our insights from that work to address key gaps in research and in technical guidance development. And we build coalitions to develop effective policy changes that we need to address. We are working across partners and stakeholders, not just to bring about a change for a better agriculture in small pockets. The idea is really we want to actually catalyze a transition to what I like to call a new conventional agriculture, a new normal, where everybody can be proud of what agriculture does across the environment, across production, across the economics out there on the landscape. We're really looking to build a future where every farm and every ranch is thriving across the country, and where their production systems promote healthy soils, are resilient and diverse and economically viable, equitable, climate neutral, better, and sustainable. So obviously a very ambitious vision. It will take everyone. We're not going to do this on our own. And so we are always eager to explore new impactful ways to collaborate. So if you have ideas, please feel free to get in touch. Our work on integrating biochars as a core tool in the soil health management systems toolbox is a really key piece of that holistic systems work. Biochar really is ready to scale up and to be fully integrated and normalized as part of agricultural management. And so that's what we're working on here. We have launched a number of projects to scale up biochar use on farms across the country, to connect producers to users of biochar, to provide technical guidance, and to understand and address barriers to integration. The webinar series here is a piece of that work. Next slide. You will find the full Practical Biochar Implementation webinar series on AFT's Farmland Information Center. We will post this one there shortly after we're done. And we have more webinars coming, so definitely look out for those updates. I'm here today with AFT colleagues, co-host Aisha Tapp-Ross, soil health and microbial scientist who has led all the behind-the-scenes work to organize this webinar, and co-host Dr. Kiros Hadgu, senior soil health and biochar scientist. We also have with us today our newly hired colleague Tara Lewandowski, Director of Agricultural Markets at USBI's US Biochar Initiative, and Kristin Trippe, microbiologist at USDA ARS. Kristin serves as PI on the National Biochar Atlas project that is funding this series. Both of them will briefly introduce themselves here before we dive into today's topic. So passing on to Kristin, go ahead.
Hi, good morning and greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. And thanks, Bianca, for that introduction. As she said, my name is Kristin Trippe, and I am a researcher with the United States Department of Agriculture, Agricultural Research Service located in Corvallis, Oregon. Our laboratory is primarily interested in how biochar can improve agricultural lands to provide both ecosystem services and economic sustainability for farms across America. To that end, we also like to open up and make biochar accessible to farmers. And so we've created several decision support tools to help implement conservation practices as well as biochar-based practices across cropping systems. That tool is the Pacific Northwest Biochar Atlas. We've recently scaled the Pacific Northwest Biochar Atlas to the United States, to the entire United States, to help farmers find a biochar that meets their cropping needs as well as their soil deficiencies. I've just put a link to that in the chat. This is the newly released National Biochar Atlas that is in a beta stage. So if you have time to go look at that and check it out and provide feedback to me, you can reach me at kristin.trippe@usda.gov. I just want to take a moment to recognize the partners that have been involved in developing this tool, from Oregon and Washington State universities to the US Biochar Initiative, and of course AFT, and this project was funded by the NRCS. And with that, I'll pass this over to, I believe, Tara, who's going to introduce, or Myles, I'm not sure, who's going to introduce USBI. Thanks.
Thanks, Kristin, and thank you, Bianca, for your introduction as well. So my name is Tara Lewandowski. I am the Director of Agricultural Markets at the USBI. We are a 501c3 nonprofit focused on increasing production and the use of biochar in North America. We do that primarily by opening up markets, and those are focused on agricultural markets, environmental markets, industrial, and the built environment. The last thing I want to say is that we are having our annual conference. It's in Minneapolis next week, September 15th through 18th. It is the largest biochar event in North America. And if you want to learn more, we would love to see you there. And with that, I'll pass it back to Bianca. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Kristin. It's always so great to work with you. So with that, we are talking today about the ins and outs of biochar enhanced fertilizers. I am excited to introduce Dr. Santanu Bakshi. Santanu Bakshi is the principal scientist and biochar research lead at the Bioeconomy Institute of Iowa State University. He's also adjunct assistant professor of agricultural and biosystems engineering at Iowa State University. He specializes in sustainable materials and bioprocess engineering, and his research interests include the pyrolysis bioenergy biochar platform. He's really looking to foster agricultural-led growth and biochar integration while producing renewable energy and sequestering carbon. So really exciting work, really exciting to have you here with us, Santanu, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Bianca. Okay, can I share my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this Biochar Atlas webinar series. And I first want to thank Myles and Bianca and Isa for introducing me and inviting me in this webinar series. I am Santanu Bakshi. I am the principal scientist at the Bioeconomy Institute and also an adjunct assistant professor at the Agricultural and Biosystems Engineering at Iowa State University. So my experience with biochar my work with biochar started in 2010 when I was a grad student at the University of Florida. So I worked over a decade with biochar, but today I'm going to present some of our recent findings from our research from different federal fundings and industrial fundings. So I will focus my presentations today with just biochar-based fertilizers. So first, I want to give a brief overview that what we do here at the Bioeconomy Institute. So we do pyrolysis biorefinery starting from the biomass, and we do the pyrolysis reactor and then the product recovery. So different type of products we process in a different way. There is a nice paper out, heterodoxy in fast pyrolysis with Robert Brown. And this is an interesting paper, and he summarized all these things. So we do here characterizations of the bio oil and the phenolic oil, separation of the phenolic oil, and we do upgradation through the ester formation, and we do blending with the regular diesel fuel to produce aviation fuel, and also obviously with the solid product biochar. So with biochar, we do soil enrichment and sequestration of carbon. We do valorization of biochar for different environmental applications, including production of the slow release fertilizer. In the next slide, I want to show that this is a nice graphical picture that shows that different processes, urbanization process, industrialization, agricultural inputs, that nitrogen and phosphorus, it comes, these are the sources in the water body, these nutrients, uh, that nitrogen and phosphorus goes into the water body and then into the groundwater. Different chemical tech methods, physical methods, those have been discussed in the literature. Suppose like the chlorination process, the precipitation, airstrip, including biochar, zeolite, and also some ecological remediation. So this picture says that what are the problems and what are the different remediation techniques that have been discussed, and we are interested in this area, so we are working in this process, especially using biochar, zeolite, activated carbon, and also some chemical methods. In the next slide, I want to show that what is the problem with the water quality. That accumulated nitrogen and phosphorus that comes from different processes that damages the water body, and it causes the eutrophication, and it causes excessive algal growth, rapid increases in phytoplankton growth, and depletion of oxygen levels, and finally eutrophication and the dead zone. So in the right side, top right picture, you can see the eutrophication, and in the bottom two pictures, you can see the dead zone. So that blooming of the blue-green algae, as an example, cyanobacteria, is the best known consequence of this eutrophication, and which it actually degrades the water quality, ecosystem disruption, and loss of recreational value of water bodies. So these nutrients are of great interest currently to remediate it in the water body, and how we can reduce the loss of this nitrogen and phosphorus from the agricultural to the water body. So first, I want to say what is biochar. Most of you may have already know that biochar is a recalcitrant carbonaceous solid from the pyrolysis of the lignocellulosic biomass, and that's this biochar or charcoal generated for ecosystem service and carbon sequestration. In the left-hand side, you can see some scanning electron microscopy picture of the 100 micron scale. You can see that what the pore size looks like. And on the right side, you can see a graphics that say that that biochar can be used for a long-term carbon storage and less atmospheric carbon dioxide loss from the biomass. So recent report, it estimates that biochar market size worth around $400 million US dollar globally by 2028 or 2029, which is 12.1% compound growth rate, annual growth rate. and around USD $500 million by 2030, which is around 12.9 or 13% compound annual growth rate. So regional scope. So where are the scopes for this biochar? Obviously North America, Europe. Europe has a huge market for this biochar. We have several collaborators in the Europe, specifically in the United Kingdom. We have Asia Pacific, Latin America, Middle East, and obviously in Africa. So now the obvious question is, what is the cost of biochar? So biochar cost ranges from around $200 to $1,000 per ton. Microsoft is paying as a carbon credit around $600, $700 right now. But our recent techno-economic analysis at Iowa State University, it estimates the cost of biochar maybe around $80 to $120 per ton. Recently, the Biochar Research Network Act has been reintroduced in the Senate of the United States. So we remain hopeful that it will be included in the next Farm Bill. Okay, so biochar is diverse in nature. So different biomass produces different biochar with different properties. So this heterogeneous composition related to the precursor material, and it results in unique physicochemical properties, and that variable porosity, influences different absorption, and different biological interactions. On the right-hand side, you can see that biomass, feedstock, and pyrolysis operating conditions determine biochar properties. So, as a conclusion, we can say that biochar can improve the physical and chemical properties of agricultural and horticultural crops and soils and substrates, and provide cost benefits by reducing water and nutrient loss from the agricultural feed. So biochar is produced under different production processes, and therefore has the potential to be produced and prescribed for a specific crop, soil, or substance. So this is overall our biochar pyrolysis biochar platform. So the energy crops, which takes the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere during the photosynthesis process, it produces the crops, and after that plant dies, so the biomass we do, excuse me, the pyrolysis, and that biochar and the plant nutrients we put it back into the soil. Not only that, we produces also bio oil, which can be upgraded to different energy and bio-based products. So this is the carbon storage in soil as biochar. So this is in the left hand side, you can see that carbon positive, and in the right hand side, we say it as a carbon negative energy. So the geosphere, the carbon pool, the net energy that releases into the atmosphere as a CO2, but with the biochar, we can reduce that carbon dioxide release to the atmosphere as an application back to the soil. So here geosphere, what I mean by geosphere is the atmosphere plus lithosphere plus cryosphere plus hydrosphere. And on the right hand side, what I mean by pedosphere is the soil mantle of the earth. So here, this is a nice picture. I always show this in a biochar presentation. That what biochar provides as an ecosystem service, it improves the nutrient retention, it improves the water holding capacity, and it reduces the nitrous oxide emissions from soil. In the left-hand side picture, you can see it's clearly the control row and the rows with biochar. You can see a good growth of the plants with the biochar. In the right-hand side, this is a graph. Sorry, the reference is not why it's not here. I don't know. So that is a paper published in a couple of years ago with David Laird. So they studied around 5 to 6 years of biochar application and the total stock carbon increase. And what they found that the addition of biochar to soil represents net removal of carbon dioxide, and also biochar resist biological degradation and can sequester carbon per 100 or thousands of years. So in the graph, you can see that with time, that biochar carbon stays in the soil, and the difference between the carbon in the stocks in the soil versus that biochar carbon, that is called the biochar carbon credit. So this is a projection around 5 to 10 years, and you can see that with increasing in time, that biochar carbon credit increases with time. This slide shows that different applications of biochar in the wastewater treatment, the different biomass sources, and there are different treatments, suppose like pre-treatment, post-treatment, different production, suppose like pyrolysis, hydrothermal, carbonization, gasification, microwave. Those are different production techniques. And this biochar can be used in the industrial purposes, suppose like for remediate of the heavy metals and organic pollutants. In the municipal system, where the nitrogen, phosphorus, those nutrients are of great concern. In agricultural also, suppose like for pesticides and heavy metals. And in the stormwater facility, suppose like as the metals, organic matter, biological pollutants. So biochar are being used in all these facilities to remediate all these pollutants or nutrients. So now I want to come back with my study, that what we have found last 4 or 5 years, that here I can show that biochar can be engineered for high phosphorus absorption. In this slide, we can say that the partial oxidation condition of autothermal pyrolysis. So this autothermal pyrolysis is our patented technology. In the pyrolysis process, there is no, it says that low or very no oxygen. But in this autothermal pyrolysis, in our patented technology, so we allow a little bit air to increase the equivalence ratio of the pyrolysis process. And we found that process is very efficient to do some oxidation and also increasing the surface area of the biochar. So in this study, we found that this autothermal pyrolysis, it converts the added iron salt into the iron oxyhydroxides, which is capable of complexing phosphate, and it shows very high amount of phosphate absorption compared to that the control biochar. So in the left-hand side, this is an overall figure that we showed that constover plus iron sulfate pretreatment, and then this autothermal pyrolysis, we produce different phases of iron, and which are responsible for absorbing different forms of phosphate. And this phosphate is not easily available, so we can use this material as a slow-release fertilizer. So in the next slide, I'm sorry. In the next slide, I will show that what's the mechanism of this phosphorus adsorption onto the biochar's iron surface. So what we found that inner surface complexation by ligand exchange and the surface precipitations are the most important most important mechanisms involved in this phosphorus retention. Also, we found different minerals, suppose like hematite, magnetite, magemite. Those are also responsible for phosphorus adsorption onto the biochar surface. And we have done several studies, such as batch studies and column studies, and we found that different mechanisms are involved into these for the for the phosphate complexation with the singly coordinated ferrol or FeOH surface. And the desorption study from this study, we found that it indicates that the specific adsorption of phosphorus happens on the iron surface, whereas the non-specific onto the control biochar. So these specific adsorption are particularly responsible for creating these as a slow release fertilizer. So we also have a US patent for this process and this material. So if you are interested, you can go in and Google US patent, and then you can find this one there. So at the end, at the conclusion of this study, that what we found that phosphorus recycling strategy, and it says that phosphorus option onto biochar obviously depends on the solution pH. And this iron sulfate impregnated biochar can effectively recycle phosphorus from different aqueous solutions. So say environmental discharge, you can say agricultural solution, water, storm water, from animal agriculture also. So it can get recycle phosphorus from those solutions. And this phosphorus-loaded iron sulfate impregnated biochar can be used as a slow-release fertilizer in agriculture. So overall, environmental implications that these findings are useful to engineer biochar for eco-friendly phosphorus recycling strategies from wastewater and agriculture to reduce eutrophication and promote carbon sequestration, enhance soil quality, and overall the sustainable agriculture. In the next one, we have studied for development of the slow-release nitrogen fertilizer. Also, we found that this partial oxidation condition followed by that phosphoric acid activation, it stabilizes the urea onto the biochar surface. And we have done different treatments, different studies, suppose like the ammonia percentage loss as applied to nitrogen. And also we have studied ammonium nitrogen and nitrate nitrogen with different types of biochar and urea mixture, and also the control urea. So what we found that ammonia loss, it's actually this biochar supported slow release nitrogen fertilizer. It reduces ammonia loss 3 to 4 times compared to urea. It reduces nitrate loss, which is around 2 and 2.5 times than urea. And also ammonium availability, that urea is, that means this developed fertilizer actually 7 to 8 times more ammonium availability to the crop plants than compared to urea. And the right hand side, you can see a schematic diagram of how this thing works and how we created that material, that biochar and phosphoric acid activated, and we impregnated the urea at a different at a particular temperature, and we produced that phosphoric acid phase onto the biochar, and then we impregnated the urea, and it forms different forms of nitrogen onto the surface. In the next slide, I would like to show that some FTIR spectra, which is very important to understand this material. And we found several nitrogenous peaks into our material, which are responsible for successful urea impregnation. You can see that the binding energy of NH2 stretching vibration that decreases, and we found that some N plus H, which is responsible for the ammonium group, that also present in our material. We found some POH stretching vibration. We found some amide 1 and 2, and we found that the peak position of the NH2 and CH stretching vibration changes. So these are the evidences that we successfully impregnated urea onto the biochar surface, which has already phosphoric acid activated. So our results, okay, let me give a brief idea about that. What is this slide for? So after we impregnated the urea onto the acidic surface of the biochar, we mixed wax to the product, and then we pelletized, and we studied these pellets with a normal urea pellet. So also we have studied without the wax addition, and we found that wax addition is important to the product because it reduces the interaction of the urea nitrogen to the water. So here are different, in this table shows different phosphoric acid activation and different biochar to urea ratio. And we found that urea dissolved less when we use the wax addition. You can see the red numbers with the wax addition, and the black numbers are without wax addition. So wax addition is very important during the pelletization process, and we implemented that wax addition to our product. As a summary from this study, that we found that phosphoric acid activation maximizes nitrogen retention onto biochar surfaces, and we've developed fertilizer exhibits slow release of both urea and ammonium nitrogen than bulk urea. Developed fertilizers also exhibit reduction in ammonium volatilization, added phosphorus fertility, and reduction in nitrate loss. So what are the overall environmental implications? That these findings are helpful or useful to produce slow release nitrogen fertilizer for reducing nitrogen loss from soil, to improve soil health and water quality, and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions for sustainable agriculture. In the right-hand side, this is the manuscript we published several years ago, maybe 4 years ago. If you are interested, you can give a look at what we did and what we contributed new towards the science of this making slow release nitrogen fertilizer. Obviously, the question arises that what happens, these are all bin scale studies, that what happens when when you grow crop plants. So we actually did the crop plants, the greenhouse scale, and we grow corn plants 5 to 6 months using this biochar slow release fertilizer, and we compare that with the regular urea. And we found that optimum biochar to urea ratio and incorporating binding agents are helpful for the timing of nitrogen release from the slow release fertilizer. So we implemented some binding agents, suppose like calcium lignocellphonate and also some paraffin wax. And we have added the slow release fertilizer to grow corn plants. And we measured the nutrient use efficiency and recovery efficiency, and also the biomass and also the root growth. And what we found that overall this slow release fertilizer are very impactful compared to the urea addition to the corn plants growing. Okay, so here's the paper we published several years ago. If you are interested, you can give a look. And we produced that slow release, and we studied in the maize growth and nitrogen recovery agency. So the key findings that urea price that time, it was around $400 per metric ton, US dollars. And we calculated our fertilizer price would be a little higher than the urea, which is 1.7 to 1.9 times higher. However, that 10% to 78% of the urea nitrogen is typically lost by ammonia volatilization or nitrate leaching. Our developed fertilizer, what we found that reduces nitrogen loss around 6 to 8 times as combined effect. So overall, though it is a little bit higher, but it has a positive impacts on economy, soil health, water quality, and obviously carbon sequestration since it has biochar. So now let's move from just agricultural crops to some animal agriculture. This is a study we started in 2022 with a grant from the United States Department of Agriculture. This is an integrated biochar zeolite system for enhanced nutrient recovery. So our previous study shows that iron biochar can recover and reuse that phosphorus. So we implemented the same plan here, that we will take the nitrogen and phosphorus out from the animal manure, and we will make the fertilizer, and we will use that as a practical agricultural purposes. So overall, so this project says that the livestock manure, we can recycle nutrients, we can reduce the odor control, because some of our previous study also shows that biochar can reduce the manure odor. It absorbs some of the organics. So it can be used as a odor control and to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. And that recycled nutrients we can use as a new plant source of the nutrients, which can reduce the synthetic fertilizer use, which can improve the water quality and build soil quality. And also this process also will enhance the anaerobic digestion. So why manure? Okay, so manure has several issues. So it emits ammonia, and it nutrient loss into the water drainage, and it releases odorous gases like ammonia and H2S. And most importantly, manure has a very low carbon to nitrogen ratio, which is which promotes the microbial decomposition. So manure transport is also expensive. So liquid manure application cost about very low. It's say $0.02 per gallon per mile the manure is transported. While this is not sound like much, but it generally means that manure nutrients never travel more than 3 to 5 mile radius from the farm they are excreted on. For large farms, this means that the nutrients concentrated around the facility. This had led to concern of over application and keeps farmers from getting full economic value from their manure. Also, the United States Environmental Protection Agency estimated that around 15 to 17% of the greenhouse gas emissions are associated with the animal manure management in the United States agricultural sector. So this proposal, our objective was to recover the nutrients and make it in a solid form, which can be useful for the farmers to transport from one place to another. This is the integrated biochar zeolite system. So we developed different nutrient recovery chambers from where we can recover the manure nutrients. So you can see in the left picture that the manure input through the chamber 1 and chamber 2 and chamber 3, and with that nitrogen and phosphorus enriched fertilizer, we can do the field trials, life cycle analysis, and the techno-economic analysis. On the right hand side, you can see that anaerobic digestion and greenhouse. That also improves the anaerobic digestion. It produces more biogas and also digested, which can reduce the source reduction, recycling of nutrients, and energy recovery. So this project was funded in 2022. We are still doing the field scale application. This is our second year of the field scale. We started in 2023 fall. So we are still doing the field scale of that nitrogen and phosphorus fertilizer using our corn stover biochar and control biochar and also zeolite. And overall, these fertilizers gives good results with the yield and the soil quality. Though I have not included any slide in today's presentation from the field data, but we can say that the field trials are going on and they are performing very good with the manure enriched, biochar enriched manure fertilizer. Okay, so one of our study that shows that biochar and new zeolite, it can recover phosphorus and nitrogen from soil manure to produce that slow release fertilizer. That is our first study from that project. It published in 2023, early 2023, and we showed different mechanisms that how that biochar and zeolite, it works with nutrients, not only nutrients but also the dissolved organic carbon. And that spent biochar, we use that as a desorption media, and we studied the phosphorus and ammonium desorption. We found that these are very good slow release fertilizer. Also, we included the zeolite, the spent zeolite for the desorption, and we found that that zeolite also worked as a very good ammonium and the nitrogen fertilizer. This is our another assessment that the combined system, particular combinations consisting of control biochar, iron biochar, zeolite has a good potential to recover nutrients from the swine manure. And in this study, we have shown that different the alkali and alkaline earth metals from the control biochar, they are related to the different mechanism rather than the iron biochar, which is more precipitation and cation exchange mechanism. And that potassium saturated zeolite, the cation exchange mechanisms are involved there, and we produce a nutrient-rich fertilizer, which is NRF, and we tested that for ammonium volatilization, seed germination, and nutrient leaching. In this study, we found that ammonia volatilization also reduced. It indicates that reduced soil nitrogen loss as ammonia from that nutrient-rich fertilizer compared to urea and escorted urea. And soil leaching test also suggests that nutrient-rich fertilizer improves the ability to hold nutrients, thus reducing the overall nutrient loss from the soil. We encountered some problem during our study, and the problems is obviously the high colloids present in the manure, and this is problematic for effective separation of the solid and liquid phase, because we found that nitrogen is associated in the liquid phase and phosphorus is associated with the solid phase. So our objective was to separate that nutrient-rich liquid and solid phases. But the problem is that colloids, they don't want to get settled out. So we found the ferric chloride might be a good coagulating agent, and then we can flocculate it and we can sediment it and we can separate out the liquid and solid in the manure. Also, we tried with the phytase enzyme addition, because normal swine manure does not have a lot of phytase enzyme, and it causes conversion of organic phosphorus to inorganic phosphorus. So why ferric chloride? Because research has shown that this ferric chloride is a very low cost salt, and addition of ferric chloride to the aqueous manure can be beneficial by reducing the ammonia loss from the system also, because that ferric chloride get hydrolyzed in the water system, which can reduce the system pH and which reduces the ammonia volatilization. And this is due to the hydrolysis of iron 3+. Simultaneously, this ferric chloride encourages flocculation of the manure colloid particles, thus precipitating out the colloids. So in this, so related to that concept, we started working and we found the nutrient distribution in manure solid liquid fraction. It depends on what kind of coagulating agent we are using. So we tried 3 different coagulating agents, which one is phosphoric acid, another is the ferric chloride, and another is the hydrochloric acid. And we separated out the solid and the liquid. And in the right-hand side, you can see that, oh, I'm sorry. You can see that we separated out the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and we recycled it, and we tested in a different media. And we found that ferric chloride, the middle one, is most effective to separate out the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and then recycle it. So the amount of recycle depends on how much strong bonds it's formed within the biochar surface, and so the rest of the amount it's in the biochar surface. So we assume that will act as a slow release fertilizer. So that gives us another manuscript. So we published it in early this year, that it says that biochar zeolite and ferric chloride, and it can recover nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium from soil manure using physical approaches. So we have implemented different flocculation, sedimentation flocculation, and also we have studied different thermodynamic parameters, and we found that this is a good way to separate out the nitrogen, the solid and liquid, and obviously the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So the liquid fraction, we separate it out. We use the biochar to get all the ammonium and potassium. And the solid phase with the phosphorus, we separated out that from nitrogen and make it as a phosphorus slow release fertilizer. So in the right-hand side, if you are interested, you can give a look in this paper. So we have discussed all the mechanisms and the products here. Also, in our recent study, we have studied that the co-application of biochar and manure, it supports soil microbial habitat and increase the recalcitrant soil carbon. So in this study, we have implemented that manure and manure plus biochar addition, and we have studied different carbon stability. We measured Van Craven diagram, and we have shown that that co-application of this biochar and manure, it supports better building of the soil carbon in the system. So in the right hand side, you can see some graphs, soil microbial biomass, which increases with increasing in biochar and manure addition, and also the HC and OC organic ratio that reduces with increasing in biochar to biochar plus manure application. After we implemented that exponential two-pool model with measuring the labile carbon and recalcitrant carbon, we found that manure biochar combination can increase the recalcitrant carbon by 2-3 extra% than compared to manure application alone. So we concluded that this can be a good agricultural practices which can increase recalcitrant soil carbon. So this is the paper we published this year, that biochar as a platform to increase manure carbon residence time. Overall, that we found that biochar absorbs the labile manure labile carbon, which decreases the carbon release and improves mixture's total carbon. And manure biochar co-application to soil decreased labile soil carbon fraction and overall carbon dioxide loss. So less respirational loss, and we conclude it as a more carbon accumulation. So obviously, we studied here with the dairy manure and soil manure, and that labile carbon loss varies with different types of manure, but recalcitrant carbon always improved in our study. So we concluded that biochar rate at manure types influences the mean residence time of soil labile carbon upon their co-application. And also, this is crucial to determining the soil microbial biomass carbon and nitrogen. So with this, I would like to end my presentation here. I would be happy to answer any questions if you have any, and I will ask Bianca if you can take from here. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Santanu, that was great. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'm going to remind everyone who's watching, if you have any questions, please throw them in the Q&A and we'll try to get to them in the next 25 minutes or so. I'm going to start with a couple. So Santanu, you talked about two different kind of types of fertilizers today. You talked about one that was biochar and urea. The other one was the biochar and swine manure. I'm going to start with some of the biochar and urea questions. So first, what is the status of commercialization for either this biochar fertilizer or other ones in the industry right now?
Okay, that's a very good question. So yeah, so we are trying to establish it in a industry scale. We have our own pyrolysis pilot plant, the BioCentury Research Farm here at Iowa State. So we have our own startup company, so who will be producing this slow release fertilizer in full phase, I would say, end of next year. So we are trying to develop that pyrolysis plant here, develop the product. Yes, that's a very good question. And we are actually starting the field scale application of this developed the full phase. That means large scale agricultural applications of this product, I would say next year fall.
Okay, so that actually leads into my next question, was how are farmers perceiving the value proposition of a fertilizer like this as opposed to other currently available fertilizers on the market? Have you had any experience with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's the question I was asked all the times. You have to say maybe, okay, let me, 1 minute. Did I, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, good. So that the concept is obviously that slow release versus quick acting, you know. So biochar can act as a sponge for nutrients. So as it retains important plant nutrients and release whenever necessary. So that means considering this high nitrate leaching in the water body from the agricultural fields, and during last summer, we had a hard time in our Des Moines area, high nitrate leaching in the soil, and we visited that place because from the households, all the nitrogen that mixed into the water and into the water body causes high level of nitrates. So this so how we can reduce this nitrate leaching? So our product, it offers that the urea that is totally available to the farmer, urea or liquid ammonia. So it's a readily available form. That means the nutrient will be readily available to the plant to increase crop productivity. This concept, it acts as an immediate action, but has long-term negative effect. So what we are proposing that our product, we can produce a potential slow release fertilizer, which can stay in the agricultural soil for a longer period of time than the traditional fertilizer. So what is the basic difference? Obviously, quick acting slow release. This concept is similar to the concept of acting pills versus time acting pills, you know. So we are anticipating that this biochar based slow release nitrogen, it can reduce the nitrogen leaching loss from the agricultural field. And obviously it will take some time, but in our preliminary studies, we have found that this is a very good way to reduce and increase the nutrient use efficiency.
Perfect, thank you. And so my next question is, I think that the current technology for urea that is used widely to reduce leaching and improve nutrient use efficiency is the sulfur-coated urea.
Yeah, S-coated urea. Yep.
So I think that most farmers, when you brought this to them, that's probably what they would use as a reference point. And how would you position this as compared to sulfur-coated urea on the marketplace?
So the main thing is there are different things. One is biochar obviously increases carbon sequestration. Okay. Number two is if we can add this material, and if we can make it as a slow release, because you know the plant does not need all the nitrogen at the beginning, so they need little nitrogen over time. So when it goes from the V stage to the reproductive stage, they need nitrogen different phases. So our objective is to reduce the nitrogen release from our material, and also to increase the nitrogen retention in the soil. How? So if you can make the nitrogen form in the ammonium, which can resist the loss of ammonia, that will stay more in the soil, and also it can reduce the ammonium to nitrate conversion and get into the groundwater. So our objective is to increase the nutrient use efficiency, reduced input cost, increase carbon sequestration, and also improve the water quality.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about the process of making iron modified biochar, and specifically, is that a technically restrictive process, or is that something that anyone could do with any pyrolysis machine?
Yes. So the patent, we have an US patent for this. Obviously, you can give a look. Let me share that in the chat section so quickly. So this process is we produce biochar, not only biochar, the corn stover biomass. So we mixed the iron sulfate, the ferrous sulfate, iron at the +2 oxidation state, that salt. We mix it with the biomass at a particular ratio, and we do the autothermal pyrolysis, which allows some oxygen, and it oxidizes some of the iron 2 to iron 3. And we found that oxidation is very helpful to produce that iron oxyhydroxides form onto the biochar surface. That oxyhydroxides form specifically absorbed phosphates, and it creates a slow release. Not only that, corn stover biochar, it has a high ash content. It has some magnesium, it has some calcium, it has some potassium. So it creates different phosphate forms, you know, potassium phosphates, which has a very high solubility. Calcium phosphate, which has a medium solubility. It forms also the iron phosphate, which has a very low solubility. So we can utilize the absorbed phosphates in that way that whenever plant needs, they can get that phosphates from that material. Let me share that patent quickly so you can, 1 minute. Okay, I found it. Okay, I'm sharing it in the chat screen, okay? Okay, yep.
Thanks. That was a great explanation. All right, my next question is a bit of a two-parter. So I'm going to start with, what is the application rate of your commercial fertilizer in tons per acre? What's your target rate?
The nitrogen one?
Yes, the Yeah, the first one you talked about.
Yes. So nitrogen is in the Midwest, the typical application rate for the continuous corn is 200 pounds per acre. And for corn soybean rotation, it's actually 170, 180 pounds per acre.
Okay.
So that is the typical rate, and we found that we are still optimizing our product, and what we found that our product has around 30 to 32% nitrogen, whereas the urea has 46% nitrogen. So we are optimizing to add more nitrogen into the product, and obviously the fertilizer will be added at the recommended nitrogen rate.
That makes sense.
Yep.
So at that rate, so this the next question was, a lot of the value of biochar from an environmental standpoint is the addition of carbon. When applying the fertilizer biochar product you're talking about at those agronomic levels, how long does it take to achieve about 1 ton of carbon per acre to the soil? So how long could you add it before you start to really see benefits of carbon?
So for carbon sequestration, that's a very tricky question because we don't know yet. If you see my presentation also in the paper, so the biochar to urea ratio is 1:4, 1:6. So we are adding a little biochar, but more urea, because we are engineering the biochar in a way that it can hold more nitrogen, more urea, right? So we are adding very low amount of carbon. So it will take some time. We are saying that it will increase carbon sequestration, but it will take some time because we are not adding that much carbon or that much biochar in the field with that fertilizer. So what we are trying to, in our field scale study from next year, what we are going to start is obviously a blanket biochar addition, say 0.5% or 1% biochar addition together with that biochar based fertilizer and with a control plots. So we can say from there that how biochar is actually influencing this slow release fertilizer.
So would you say that biochar enhanced fertilizers, when used in this way, are more economical for farmers than raw biochar?
Yes. So raw biochar addition. So for biochar agricultural practices, so biochar can be used as a liming agent, can be used as a carbon sequestration agent, and can used because biochar is not a fertilizer, right? So biochar is a soil amendment. But if we can convert that amendment into a fertilizer, obviously it will get more economical value. So that means if you are planning to buy biochar and urea separately, that will be more cost, but biochar incubated with urea, that will be less cost, obviously.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to ask one more on this, and I'm going to pivot so we have time to get to the other section as well.
Okay.
Someone was asking if you could talk a little bit more or explain what you mean by wax addition.
Oh, the wax is a paraffin wax is obviously it's a petroleum product. We are trying to optimize it. But in our preliminary study, what we found that a little bit wax addition, it can increase the hydrophobicity. What I mean by hydrophobicity is it repels water molecules. So if you make the wax coating of the pellets, it will repel with the water, which can decrease the dissolve of the nitrogen in the fertilizer. So that is why we stabilized this fertilizer as a strong binding agent.
Okay. All right, moving us to the swine section. And if we have time, we'll come back. So please continue putting questions in the chat if you have them or in that Q&A. To your knowledge, so that the biochar and swine manure section was really interesting. It addressed a lot of really pertinent environmental problems, especially in certain regions of the US. Is anyone doing a process like this commercially right now?
As I know, no. Maybe I don't know. Okay, in the Midwest, we do a lot of this biochar and manure application study. We have at least three studies going on with this. At least at that Iowa State University. One of obviously in our study, this is my proposal. I was the PI in that project. We got it in 2022 and 2023, 2024. We have already done twice. Commercially, I don't know, but field scale study, there are two other study that is also they are evaluating biochar and manure, not only for nutrient purposes, but also for carbon sequestration and greenhouse purposes. So in our study, we are making the fertilizer separately in the lab or in the farm, and we are applying that fertilizer in the field. In other studies, I know what they are doing, they are adding the manure and biochar separately in the field, and they are studying the nutrient availability, leaching loss, and biomass yield, and also the greenhouse gas emissions. So two different ways of application, but I guess overall picture is the same. That means it can increase the stability of the manure carbon and the manure nutrients in the agricultural fields if you apply with biochar. Yes.
So technologically, the farms are distributed, obviously. Could a farmer, in theory, implement this process in their own farm using their own swine manure pits with moderate adaptation?
I guess yes. My answer is yes. That is why we are doing research that how we can make it more available to the farmers. You know, that means it's not a huge technology, I would say, but there are some sciences what we are trying to do, explore these sciences, and then bring a simple picture to the farmer, so they can do it at their own farm and they can produce their own fertilizer or own mixture. They can apply it on field. It's not like a rocket science. So it's just a simple science. So we are trying to explore the science, what's there. So you have to add A, B, C, D, and that's it. You have to make that way, and you can apply it obviously in your own farm.
Okay. And then technically, at least as far as you know, this fertilizer, once it goes through this process, it would still be considered a raw manure, and it would need to go through a pasteurization process to reduce pathogens still. So it could be used, but probably in the raw manure context.
Yes, it can be used as a raw manure content because raw manure application is the most widely applicable process here, right? So they are not pasteurizing it. So they are just applying the direct manure. So we don't need to pasteurize this. We don't need to include any cost there because pasteurization involves some cost. So we can reduce that. We don't need that.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I believe, if I remember right, in that study, you used corn silver biochar. And so building off of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but was there other types of biochar you think would be appropriate to use or not appropriate in that use case?
So yeah, again, I want to refer back to my to our first study and that patent that we found that high ash biomass is effective producing this fertilizer. The reason is we need those calcium, magnesium, potassium fixes in the biomass ash, which can be as a stable salt in the biochar. So we want to utilize those alkaline earth metals also together with iron. So that is why we use high ash biomass. But I don't know, maybe in the future we can do some research with a low ash, which is, OD biomass. So there are two different kind of biomasses I have discussed. One is high ash biomass, which is for phosphorus, and the low ash biomass, which is for nitrogen. So we need these two kind of biomasses for making two different kind of fertilizers.
Interesting. Someone asked, would you be able to give a at least high-level overview of how the solids from dairies differ from swine manure, how those two manure sources vary?
Well, yeah, they're all okay. So depends on from which farm you are collecting, depends on which month you are collecting, and also the ages of the dairies, and the swines. So in our experience, we are handling manure last 7-8 years, but we found that it totally depends on different types of that means the age and also the location of the farms. and also what that means, which weather. That means, are you collecting in the winter? Are you collecting in the summer? So it totally depends on this. So dairy normally has less colloids. What we found that dairy has less colloids than swine, around 95% versus 98%. We found in the swine has more in the liquid portion in the liquid swine. But overall, swine manure has high phosphorus compared to nitrogen, and dairy has more nitrogen than phosphorus. So two distinct types of manure we found. But carbon wise, total carbon, I would say they are pretty close. If I am not doing any wrong calculation, so they are around 25 and 30%. So they are pretty close. But nutrient wise, they are a little different.
Which one would you target for a high phosphorus manure?
I would say swine.
Fine. Okay. There are a couple questions. So this is kind of in general. If you could talk about the price per ton of the biochar produced, the technology, or how high or low tech your pyrolysis machine was. Yeah, just a little bit about the actual biochar and the production, like temperature and time and residence time and stuff like that.
Oh, residence. This is first pyrolysis biochar. So seconds. And temperature, I would say around 475 to, let me share our pyrolysis page quickly, so they can get some idea. So the production temperature is around 470 to 500 degrees C. Obviously, this is a slow pyrolysis technique, and only air is used as the fluidizing gas. So that is actually that we are eliminating the heat transfer. So that heat transfer bottleneck of the conventional pyrolysis, several fold intensification we can achieve from this autothermal pyrolysis. So I shared that autothermal pyrolysis link. If you are interested, you can give a look. At the bottom of that page, you can see the new autothermal pyrolysis unit that I was talking about at the Harristein farm. We built it using Elon Musk, that carbon sequestration fund, with the help of Frontline Bioenergy. And that is actually operational. It can produce, it can feed 10 tons of biomass per day. So it's a huge facility. So you can give a look.
Great, thanks for putting that in there.
Yep. So, okay, how many more questions you have? Because I may have to move.
I know, yeah. This will be, I think this will be the last one.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
Have to go. This question was talking about phosphorus availability to the crop. So we know that phosphorus is absorbed in this technology to the biochar. Is it also released when it's applied in field to the crop?
Yes, yes. So, okay, that's a very good question. So we are using our own iron biochar and also the swine manure to recover that phosphorus. And we found that, yeah, it is releasing phosphorus, though we have to add very little, you know. So phosphorus addition is what, 22 milligram per kilogram of elemental phosphorus, 100 pound per acre as P2O5. So it's a very little amount we have to add in the agricultural field for the phosphorus, but the release is not bad. It's good. So I would say around 30 to 40% the initial, and then maybe 5%, 7% as an incremental. So it's good.
Great. Well, thank you, Santanu. This has been great today. I really appreciate your time.
Okay. You don't have any other question?
I think that we can get back to you. If anybody has more questions of Santanu, we would love to send them your way, get your answers.
That would be great.
Thank you so much for taking the time to share all of your amazing knowledge, all of your papers that you've put together. It's quite the body of work, and really exciting to see
Okay.
all of that
Thank
is
you very
working.
much.
So
Thank you, Bianca. Thank you, Tara. Thank you,
Okay.
Isa. Bye.
Santanu had to go teach a class. So we will just close out here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. It's been really great having you. I will remind you again that we have an evaluation. We would love for you to do that. Also, you can join AFT's mailing list. That QR code right there will get you there. We would love to be in touch with you all. Make sure that you know about events that we have coming up and share work of AFT with you. And do we have that evaluation survey in the chat? Might be good to post it again.
We do. I'm sharing it one more time.
All right, coming your way. There you go. There's that form. It won't take you more than a couple of minutes. We would love your insights, your thoughts, your suggestions. We're always looking for what the next webinar topic might be that our audience would really love to hear about. So don't be shy. Share your ideas, share your requests, and definitely share your feedback. Thank you for joining us today. Have a wonderful day.